Hey guys, welcome back. This is just a quick video to have a look at the big clash. I'm not going to review all quarterfinals, it's a bit late for that this week, but I think just talking about the big clash, France, South Africa, Stade de France, the big one, world number 2 France against world number 3 and defending world champions South Africa. Huge game for all of us. I think we're all going to be glued to the TV on Sunday night, obviously hoping for the best for the Boks, so make sure you don't miss that. Well, what can we say? I mean, epic clash. This could easily have been a World Cup final. The fact that one of these two teams has to go home and leave the tournament after this is actually still a travesty, and I think we need to mention that as much as possible. Not to hop on about it, it just shows how poorly drawn this tournament was. But be that as it may, we've got now face France, and this is the big game. What are the Boks chances? Well, yeah, France and South Africa picked their strongest teams. Both of them look incredibly awesome. Looks like it's going to be an epic clash, a clash of the heavyweights, so to speak. I don't think there's either side that you could say there's too much of a weakness. So at the end of the day, it's going to come down to discipline and efficiency, and that's the thing I've been harping on about the Springboks for a while now. Against Ireland, they weren't disciplined, they weren't efficient, and they're going to need to be against France, especially with that crowd behind them. And if you see some of these stats around the game, France are definitely by far the favourites. Just first of all, I mean, let's just go through some of the stats here, the Optiv stats that we've got here for the game. It's quite interesting to know that South Africa has won 7 of their last 8 tests against France. Obviously, the one standing out was last November in Marseille, where the French beat them when they were down to 14 men. But I think that was an incredible performance by the Boks pack. And I think that's one of the talking points, is because, a lot of talk before that game was how they're going to match up to the Springboks' physicality. And at the end of the day, they did win the game, but they played against a pack with 7 men. And arguably, Pieter-Steph du Toit is one of the best flankers in the world, and previous World Player of the Year. So without him, the Boks pack had to buckle down. They did. They matched them against, playing against 7 men, 8 against France, 8 of France against 7 of the Springboks. And so did they really answer that question? So I think that's the first thing. Are France going to be able to handle the physicality? I think there are 1 or 2 potential soft points in their second row. I think perhaps even Etzebeth Frankenmostert could get the upper hand, but it's a team game. It's going to be the scrums are going to be a huge battle. Both teams, I think France have got the one front row that probably can match Steven Kitsoff and Francois Malherbe. I'm hoping it doesn't, obviously, but I think they've got an epic front row. They've got an epic loose trio. Gregory Aldrit is probably been one of the players of the tournament so far, and they really do well. But the teams are pretty evenly matched there. The big talking point, of course, being Antoine Dupont, who's back. Whether that's the best thing to do for a player who's had a fractured cheekbone to be back like 2.5-3 weeks later. It is what it is. He's there. I can only think the medical advice would be the best for him. If it isn't, it would come back to hurt them at some point. So, there's a lot of going into that, because we spoke to John Dobson the other day on our podcast, and he also said, that one of those it's a gamble, because he's also had it backfire on him when you play a player like Evan Roos. He said, example, and you give the guy till Thursday, you give him till Friday, you give him till captain's practice, you give him till the warm-up, and then the guy pulls out, and that deflates the rest of the squad. And I think there is a danger that if Dupont doesn't make it through the game, or goes off rather early, it could deflate their squad quite a bit. But from some of the training videos we've seen this week, he looks pretty physical, he's one of these guys who obviously is quite resilient after injury. So hopefully he plays. We all want the best players to play in the World Cup, of course. So hopefully he does play there. Just interesting, in France's record at home, and I've got to share this. This is something I was quite astounded at. France have won 27 of their last 28 matches on home soil, including the last 18 in a row. It's the longest unbeaten run at home in their test history. Just shows you how dominant they are. And in Stade de France, they're going to have a home crowd that's their 16th man. They're going to be baying for blood for any time Springbok does anything remotely close to the edge. So we should know that. And it's actually quite interesting. There's a nice little negative fact for this as well. In fact, Les Bleus haven't trailed at halftime in a home game since February 2018 versus Ireland. So they've gone to the break ahead on 32 occasions and leveled twice since then. So yeah, there's a good one for the Boks. If you want to sort of upset that rhythm, you need to go in ahead of them. Although I mean, they were in the game at halftime against the All Blacks. The All Blacks should have put them away in that first half, and they came back extremely strong in the second half. To obviously power back and win that game against the All Blacks. They obviously a team that likes to kick a lot. Let's first address quickly the goal kicking. I think they do have the edge. Thomas Ramos is an exceptional goalkeeper. He doesn't miss. I think last year against the Boks, he missed one kick in the entire game. So yeah, that's a worry. Anywhere within his range is going to be put over. They're going to take the points. Boks, on the other hand, they back Manie Libbok. I know it's contentious to some people. They back the guy. They feel he's come right. They feel he's altered his kicking style. And they do have Handré Pollard on the bench as well. So, that's the one thing. I think I'd also back Manie. I think he's been the guy to take the team through the World Cup. And he's proven himself in every other way other than goal kicking. And I know a lot of people are worried about that. But, this is a management team that have won a World Cup. So you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. They obviously see things that we don't in their training sessions and working with the guy one-on-one. So, that's going to be a crucial one if Manie comes right. Obviously, we're hoping he does. So the goal kicking, but just in terms of the aerial play, the French are exceptional with the aerial game. They love to kick the ball, and they almost against New Zealand almost played a South African type game plan. They strangled them, sort of kept in the fight the whole time, didn't let the All Blacks get away, and then slowly started to take over up front physically, and then just drilled home when they had the chance. Interesting chatting to Swace de Brain the other night as well. First, I had him on our podcast, and then I bumped into him at the Supersport Studios. We were on the program together, and he says as well that Penoir and their wings are maybe a bit vulnerable on the outside there, and with our steppers, with Kurtley and Cheslin and Damien, can maybe exploit that if we get ourselves into the right areas. The big thing for me, though, are the Boks going to be efficient? They create these chances, they get themselves into the right areas, but against Ireland, they didn't finish them off. So the Boks are going to need to be a lot more efficient when they get into the red zone. They're going to need to convert these chances. These are high pressure games, high stake games, and you need to take the points when you get them. And so, I'm hoping for a much more efficient Boks performance when they get into the red zone. I think they've been quite poor this international season when it's come to that. They've changed their game plan quite a bit since they played France last year, but they have also, in creating those chances, they haven't finished off a lot of them, and we've lamented that Jacques Nienaber has said a number of times this season that that they need to finish better, and they in the World Cup in these crucial games. Well, these are the crucial games because unfortunately, there's almost more pressure in the World Cup quarterfinal than a semi-final because you go home if you lose this one. It's the first knockout game. It's all that pressure. Plus, if you lose in the semi-final, you stay for the third place playoff. So, talking about pressure, we all assume that the pressure's on the Boks, but this French team playing in front of a baying home crowd, they've got one of those crowds that tends to turn against them if they're not winning. They for them, but the French crowds, I've been at some matches where they've booed their own players. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on them as well. They are a very seasoned side. I think they can win these big games, and they've proven it. They beat the Springboks last year. But I think looking at that game last year, I was watching the highlights again the other day. The way the Springboks sort of worked out what they needed to do with 14 men, and the way they sort of found ways of upsetting the French rhythm with 14 men was seriously a bit of a turning point also for the Boks. I know they lost, but I think it's one of those occasions where even though you lose, you learn quite a bit out of the game. And I think the Boks tip to then, everybody was talking about France and how awesome they were and how amazing they were. But if the Springboks hadn't played them, you don't really know how to measure yourself against a side like that if you haven't played them. And I think once they played them, and even with 14 men, the fact that they came so close, and there was one or two contentious calls at the end of the game that could have gone the other way, is something that they would have learned a lot about. And there's a lot of pride in the Springbok side, as there is in the French side. But I think the Boks would have probably taken more out of that game last year than the French. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I'm South African, but I think they would have learned there. But the proof is in the pudding. You have to do it on the day. And these games are high pressure games. So, if you had asked me for a prediction, be quite simple. I'd say my mind would probably say France. It's going to be within 3 or 4 points like last year it was. I'd say my mind would say France would probably win it. They've got everything in their favour. But there's a part of me that thinks that the Springboks like these type of games and they like to stand up with it, when the going gets tough. So this is almost the do or die action. I mean, if they go home, if you lose your World Cup title and you go home in the quarters, they join sides like the 2003 side and the 2011 side that both went home in the quarters. And those aren't our best. Those were probably South Africa's worst performances. I think there's a lot more mitigating factors given the draw. But I'm sure that pride they wouldn't want either. And of course for France, I mean, what happens to their World Cup if their team goes out? And I think that's one of the big things. So it's going to be an epic game. As I said, my mind says probably France, but my heart will always back South Africa. And there's a part of me that's just got this feeling that the Boks are going to come up with something special. They're going to do something just different. And I don't know, I've just got this feeling they're going to stand up and surprise a couple of people. Whether that's good enough to win, we'll see. And whether pressure games like this, the players who handle the pressure come out on the winning side. The players who don't normally come out on the losing side. So Boks have picked a lot of experience. There's a lot of experience in both sides. This is really one that's very close to call. As I say, heart says the Boks, and hoping I'm right. But keep watching. Let me know what your predictions are in the comments, and who you reckon is going to win, and where you think the key area is where it's going to be won or lost. I've got a funny feeling it might come down to a Mani Lebok penalty at the end of the day. Let's see if my predictions are right. And if you haven't smashed that subscribe button, and enjoy the rugby. It's a beautiful day here in Gauteng, so hopefully the first couple of quarterfinals go off without a hitch. But the big game, 9 o'clock on SuperSport. Let's have a watch of that and go Boks. Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers.